guys? It's your boy Zowoki back out with another Chris Watts video. And by high demand, you guys have been blowing up that last Unapologetically Me True Crime video where we watched part 2 about Gino and all that information about the suspicious callers and so forth that Miss Unapologetically Me True Crime has found. It is booming. And did I take credit for it? No. Unapologetically Me True Crime is the one that found that, and she did a fantastic job. But you guys have wanted me to watch the part 1, which is a wee little bit longer, but you guys want me to watch it, and I'm highly going to do so for you guys that would like to. Again, if you don't want to watch with me, I understand. That's where the link comes in the description for you, so you guys can go watch her instead of watching it with me. But for those that would like to watch with me and react and commentate and have our opinions, I'm glad you're here. With that being said, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. First, by hitting that white bar icon down the bottom right, hit the bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, I thank you guys so much. We had just hit 70,000 subscribers, and I am still at an awe that you guys have helped this channel grow. The community is fantastic. The lives are fantastic. And everybody has a friend in each other. And I hope it continues on our way to hopefully one day hitting 100K. Make sure you guys go over to Unapologetically Me True Crime again and subscribe, comment, like, and share. Let her know that her work does not go unnoticed. She does very good and very hard work. So without further ado, let's get into the video. It's my heart beating.
Hello, everyone. I hope everybody is ready to get into part 4. Yay, we made it through the timeline and all of the main information from the discovery. Police interviews, text messages, as well as Nikki's Verizon phone bill from July 14th through August 21st of 2018. I, of course, gave my opinion throughout each of those timeline videos as well, but as
I say, my opinion, probably around 99% of the time, matches up with UMTC. So
Tammy Lee said, we are not finished yet.
And if you don't know who UMTC is, it's her for an acronym, just to make it a little bit easier to pronounce.
Unlike law enforcement, we don't answer to a DA. Much like private investigators, we're able to look into cases however we choose. And Nikki's phone records listed within Discovery go all the way through September 14th, 2018. I first considered this part of her phone bill to be completely useless, but as I was going through and highlighting who Nikki was in communication with, I realized that there was a lot left to be looked at with regard to her remaining Verizon phone bill, because like I said at the end of the video, we have them, so why not?
This woman literally went each line. I have kind of done that on smaller ones, but she had gone through each one, found out who is exactly each and every person on this phone list. Like the work that she did, wow.
But like I just said, I also think who she communicated with after Chris's confession can potentially be telling. Part 5, we will also be going through some remaining records as well as other people on them. In this video, I'm going to introduce a new individual to you guys that we haven't talked about before. There are a few people that Nikki was in communication with that I will be bringing up moving forward, and we'll be using the remainder of Nikki's phone records to do that. We went through a majority of her phone calls throughout the timeline, but after continuing the Verizon records, I noticed some things. We could easily pick up on the pattern of phone calls between Chris and Jim. Someone even went and highlighted all of the Jim calls in yellow and all of the Chris calls in blue a while back, just to show how strong.
And then when Chris gets arrested, it's just Jim and her father and her mom, occasionally Charlotte, but it is intensified by Jim calls.
Strange it was. The reason everyone has found it strange is because allegedly, according to Nicolekessinger, Chris and Jim did not know each other at all. In fact, according to Nikki, they didn't even know about each other. Chris has denied this, though he hasn't given us much to go.
Then why did she Google three-ways? I mean, it could be maybe Charlotte, for God knows who knows. But I mean, we've gone over those searches before, and I don't want to keep saying but stuff or three ways, but she definitely Googled it.
Off of. He did say in the interview from February 2019, while he was at Dodge Correctional Facility, that he didn't know why Nikki would have said that they didn't know about each other. We also know that, as Nikki frequently does, she contradicted herself later on in the interview
So they did know about each other.
By saying that she told Chris that she was going to be staying with Jim and not to contact her until, quote, this is done, unquote. There are other patterns of calls.
I guarantee her safe house that she's always mentioned is Jim's house. Or it could be maybe a house that her dad has, maybe out somewhere in yonder. But I think it's Jim's house.
That stood out to me, though, and they continue through September. Keep in mind that Detective Prill was working on the case. He began his investigation of this case, specifically the phone data of all the cell phones, on October 18th, 2018, and he turned in his final report on October 30th of 2018. Just 5 days after this was turned over to the DA's office, Chris Watts took the plea deal that would, quote, stop the clock, unquote, as Tammy Lee would say. It is my opinion that Detective Michael Prill's report was shown to Chris Watts and used in the, well, I'll just say persuasion because I don't want to say coercion, though that is the first word that comes to mind, in getting him to sign the plea deal. The reason I believe this and have this opinion is because...
And look it, we're not professionals. She and I both knew this to begin with, but we didn't go to school for it.
Because of what was discovered in Michael Prill's report. Let me remind you what that was. Now, you can pause to read this narrative.
Okay, we're going to pause it just for a second here. Evidence return receipt, name, summary, Watts, inmate Watts, evidence for booking photographs, which we've seen. It's the front, left, right, whatever have you. Behind the Frederick Police Department and the Weld County District Attorney's Office formally requested my assistance with the homicide investigation of Christopher Watts. Their request was granted. On the 24th, I met with Detective David Baumhover, District Attorney Michael Rourke, and Assistant District Attorney Rob Miller. It was decided my endeavor would begin with the organization of the investigation while simultaneously identifying any and all necessary following up investigations. On the August 29th, I attended a briefing at the Nintendo. I got Nintendo 2 on the brain. A briefing at the Frederick Police Department agency representative, including the district attorney's office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and Federal Bureau of Investigation, CBI and FBI. The purpose of the briefing was to establish a chain of command and the assignment of various tasks. Interesting. I guarantee I know who was at the top of that chain of command. I assisted Baumhover with the construction of warrants to search assorted cellular phones seized during the investigation. Assorted? So they probably have Chris's, Shanann's, Nicoles, and then who else? Phones seized during the investigations. These were secured through Judge Quamen that afternoon. Also that day, Baumhover interviewed a woman claiming to have had an affair, which we know of, which I don't believe at all, with a chance in our change in our recording equipment at the Greenlee Police Station.
I have highlighted all of the important stuff, or the stuff I can.
Okay, beginning at the September 18th, I began my review and organization of the case file. On October 2nd, I met with Agent Darren Ford at the North Colorado Forensic Laboratory. I signed an evidence return receipt for the 4 cellular phones he forensically examined. So Shanann, Nicole, Chris. Who's the 4th? Chris Watts' work and personal. Oh, that's what. Chris Watts' work phone, personal phone, Shanann's phone, and Nicole's phone. In addition, I collected a copy of the data Ford extracted from these phones during forensic examination. Ford provided me 4 additional external drives with the same data downloaded to each. Upon return, the Greenlee Police Department, I secured a copy in my office. I opened the K-Pack sealed by Ford and removed 3 drives, 1 for the prosecution, 1 for the defense, and 1 to be used as a working copy by Baumhover. I sealed the remaining drives in a separate K-Pack along with the original packing and initiated the seal to document chain of custody. Later that morning, I delivered the 2 drives to investigators Kathy Holster, at the district attorney's office. Later that afternoon, I attended a briefing at the Frederick Police Department. I had hand-delivered to Baumhover the now organized case file, his working copy of the extracted phone data, not all of it, and the original drive intended for evidence. The phones I received from Ford and the recorded interview Baumhover conducted on September 6, 2018. On October 5th, 2018, I preserved WHAAT's name summary report and inmate data from the Spillman database in accordance with the court order. I did not preserve nor review if available. In any information contained within WHAAT's visitor log, I also persevered 4 booking photographs of WHAAT's contained in Spillman. On October 11th, I attended a meeting involving Baumhover and members of the prosecution. Collectively, we identified a myriad of topics requiring attention during future follow-up investigation in this matter. For my part, the next step in my investigation will be a review of the data extracted from the phones. Woo! There's a lot there.
Consider to be important, but I'm just going to give you the parts that hold the most relevance to why I have the opinion that I have. So here it says, Agent Darren Ford conducted logical extractions of data from these phones. In conversations with Ford, he advised the Northern Colorado Forensic Laboratory does not possess technology to perform physical data extractions from Apple devices. Thus, I discovered the extracted data is not inclusive of all data stored amongst the assorted applications within a given device, nor does activity involving those applications necessarily reflect in the data extracted.
It says right there. And then yet the haters are like, oh, they got all the information. They didn't get all the information. It says it right here.
He goes on to say, for example, Watts had a secret calculator application uploaded to his personal phone, which is item 41. This application, by all appearances, is an operable calculator.
They had the WhatsApp. Both of them did. You know how much communication could have been in there that they would have never even known about?
Calculator. When the user enters a secret passcode, the application reveals its true purpose, a concealed storage device for photographs, videos, contacts, and even a private browser. In mid-July of 2018, Watts began transferring images from his camera application into the secret calculator application. This activity is not reflected within the phone's timeline. Locating those transferred images proved challenging and was predicated on mere curiosity. So basically, he was like, what is this? What is a secret calculator? And he ends up looking, and he ends up finding things. He goes on to say, I searched through the images stored within the data files featured in the
12,000 images? What?
Cellbrite report for item 41. Locating an image not highlighted in the timeline, I reviewed the path within the file information and noticed it included the words secret calculator. Using the find feature, I searched the 12,000 images stored in the phone's memory using the keyword secret calculator. Can I repeat that? 12,000 images.
I only have 1,000 images in my normal phone or my phone. 12,000? Yeah, I have 997. I've had this phone for 3 years. Oh, I'm almost sweaty. Sorry. 12,000 images?
stored in the phone's memory using the keyword secret calculator.
We have like 15 of those images.
Chris Watts had 12,000 images stored in the secret calculator. I located a vast collection of images otherwise undetected during my review that are stored within this application. Yeah, I'd say so, a vast collection. And this is the part that I really want you to hear, okay? In the near future, a follow-up warrant will be sought to manually search through this phone and access the secret calculator. That search will include any additional photographs or videos, any browser activity, and information related to the installation date. Amongst the other installed applications found on this phone, I suggest that same warrant seek permission to manually inspect the alarm clock, Apple Watch, and Vivint applications. Okay? Vivint applications. Okay, so he goes on to say a copy of that list accompanies this report. He says further review of that list may identify additional applications to search. So what does that mean? Well, if I didn't know any better, which I'm not a professional, but
did he have any other secret apps that we didn't know about?
I would have to say it means exactly what it says, which is that Detective Prill was suggesting that further warrants be gathered in order to check for any other hidden applications or way of communication that Chris Watts was using, as well as warrants to get into that secret calculator to actually see everything that was listed in it. It also means that there are...
If you have to delete messages, if you have to hide pictures and stuff like that, you're already committing adultery. So just in this aspect, for me, she's involved because she destroyed a family. Yet we can't arrest people for affairs, but in other countries you can.
12,000 photos and videos that we've never seen that were stored on Chris's.
Tell me how many pictures you have in your phone. I have 900. I don't take many pictures, and when I don't need them anymore, I throw them away. I delete them because I don't need them anymore. Well, a lot of my pictures have been put up to YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook. So I use that as like a collection of my pictures. Hopefully it never goes down because there's pictures on Facebook that I don't have in my phone. So
Cell phone that were only of him and or Nicholkessinger. Now, I want to be very clear when I say this. These warrants for the extensive search of any of their phones were never submitted for. Without the warrants, they cannot legally move forward with the investigation of the phones or the data within. So when Chris Watts signed that plea deal, there was no more moving forward with the investigation. And we're going to talk more about that towards the...
Just think about how much stuff was on that phone that they didn't even get to look at.
End of the series as we're wrapping things up, but I do feel like it's something that deserves repeating. Nobody can know information that was never gathered. Not me, not you, not the CBI, not the FBI, not the local police, not even shanannwatts.
We might do this video in 2 parts, so just heads up.
Family. And if you notice, one of the things that they did not yet have a warrant for was the Vivint security system.
That one.
That was listed.
This is what pisses me off the most, is the Vivint system was collected but never looked at. It's like getting a piece of secret top information that you need to look at later on. And then they're like, oh, don't worry about it. But I need to look at this. Nope, don't worry about it. But I need to look at it. Don't worry. What?
As one of the things Detective Prill wanted to get a warrant for.
They didn't look at
so
it.
While they had access to the Vivint home security system, they did not have a warrant to actually search through any of it yet. All of these things had to have been told to Chris Watts before he signed that plea deal. Now, do you think he wanted any of that becoming public? Do you think he wanted Shanann's family to know what the security...
Why else would he seal Bella and Celeste's autopsy reports? Like, the basic is there, but there apparently is more. And he sealed them for 50 years.
Footage might show? Or the police, for that matter? Do you think he wanted anyone to know or see any of the hundreds of thousands of photos and videos between him and Nicholkessinger? It is my opinion that had those warrants been submitted and signed off on by a judge before Chris Watts took this plea deal, this would have turned out an entirely different way. Therefore, it is my opinion that it was imperative that the DA Michael Rourke, get Chris to sign that plea deal before any more data warrants were gathered, if he wanted to close the case without a trial. And it is my opinion that Detective Michael Pearl's report was used to help Chris want to sign that plea deal. He didn't want Nicole Kessinger investigated. He didn't want her to be part of any of this. He said so. And Agent Graham Coder said, okay.
But he literally said in the public hearing that he had that Nicole Kessinger hampered the investigation. Do we need to go look at hampering again? Look it up. I did it on one of my videos. Yeah. She should be tried for hampering.
You don't want her to be a part of this? Let's make a deal.
So I don't want to get her involved in this. I don't want to ruin her life. Like something like this. I don't want her involved in this. Okay? And you want to take care of her. So we make a deal. I don't think this girl did anything to hurt anybody. So can we leave her out of it?
Again, we're going to talk more about that later on, but now let's get back to this video. Bringing you back to just Nicole's call history. We left off on the night of August 21st, 2018. Nikki made 3 consecutive calls to her dad, and after the last call to her dad, she called Jim for 1 minute. After that call, she called her sister Stephanie, which again was listed as being just 1 minute. Maybe there was no answer. I think we came to the conclusion in the comment section of the last video that those 1 minute calls could also be unanswered calls, or Nikki leaving a voicemail. So now it's August 22nd, and the first call is a voicemail left at 9:36 a.m. by a William Biscay. Who is he? I don't know, but we're going to find out soon. Not in this video.
If you watch my other video, which I posted a couple days ago, it tells you who that William Biscay is. If you want to watch it with me, go ahead. If you don't, watch it on her channel.
In the next one, because there are 5 calls with his name on them, and they are in between other people of importance, in my opinion. Then at 10 a.m., Nikki gets a call from the number 720-989-0025. Now, Footsteps of Murder listed this phone number as being from Hazelbrook Sober Living. And for those of you who have been following me with the timeline, I used a lot of the visuals from Footsteps of Murder because she had the pictures of the people's faces.
Another great channel.
Along with what they were saying. So it just made it a lot easier to follow. And Footsteps of Murder listed this phone number as being from Hazelbrook Sober Living. Nikki has this number on her call logs, a total.
Hold on, what did that say?
They were saying. So it just made it a lot easier to follow. And Footsteps of Murder listed this.
Nicole Kessinger, feed between you, Hazelbrook Sober Paid, birthday cabin. Interesting.
This phone number is being from Hazelbrook Sober Living. Nikki has this number on her call logs a total of 5 times. Now, when I looked it up, it came up as being registered to an Alexandra Shvedova. And further down in that list was the name Gino Shvedov. On August 4th of 2018 at 8:36 a.m., there was another number Nikki called that is also registered to Gino Shvedov. This is a total of 6 calls between Nikki and numbers registered to Gino Shvedov or relatives of him. So why did Footsteps of Murder say these numbers were Hazelbrook Sober Living? Honestly, I'm not sure exactly, but the connection is that Gino Shvedov.
Well, we did find out later on that Gino, I think, owns this place,
owns Hazelbrook Sober Living. Hazelbrook Sober Living has a main number, and neither of the numbers that Nikki was in communication with are that main number. At this point, you guys are probably thinking, oh my God, woman, what are you even talking about now? Why does this even matter? Well, maybe it doesn't matter, but also maybe it does. And because this is a deep dive and no one else is talking about it, I figured, why not? Let me look into it. Be thorough. So first I had to figure out who this guy.
Oh, there he is.
Because this is a deep dive and no one else is talking about.
Right there, this guy. The guy with the dog that's next to him. That's Gino.
It, I figured, why not? Let me look into it. Be thorough. So first I had to figure out who this guy even was. The first bit of information that came up was his MMA stuff. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, meet Gino Shvedov, aka the Russian Concussion. Not kidding, as you can see here. Now I personally don't follow Ultimate Fighting at all, so I don't know how good he is, but these are his stats in case you're interested. I don't know if this means he's good.
Let's take a look here. I know people are not.
So I don't know how good he is, but these are his stats in case you're interested.
I like McGregor.
I don't know.
135 KOs. He's had 33% of the fights he's had. So half. So he's won 3, lost 3. He's been KO'd a lot more. He wasn't fighting too much back in the day.
This means he's good or bad or mediocre when it
Runtime each round, minute.
comes to the MMA world, but I would not want to be on his bad side, except I probably will be after this video. But as always, I will try to be fair. Facts should not be considered offensive. My opinion, however, might be. But again, who the hell am I even anyway, right? And I do have to say, Gino's doing far better off financially in life than I am, that's for sure. So let's talk about this Gino, or Gene, or Yevgeny, the Russian concussion. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to let him explain everything to you so I don't get anything twisted. First, he's going to tell you about his background. Now, I have two separate interviews. One of them is from in Wyoming. He had a fight, and they interviewed him after that fight. So one of them is from that, and the other one is from the Mile High podcast in Denver, which is a sobriety podcast.
How you doing today, Gino?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
It's good. So tell me about your life growing up. You know, what was life like for you?
So I moved here from Russia. My family came out here from Russia when I was a young kid. You know, long story short, growing up, I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. I think like a lot of kids, you know, just trying to find my way. You know, I was kind of misguided. I ended up getting in a lot of trouble, man. Getting involved with the wrong people. Getting involved with drugs, alcohol. Things got really bad. You know, not sure why, but you know, I thought that's the kind of life I wanted to live, and you know, the consequences I found out weren't really what I wanted. I you know, followed that rainbow to the end, and really there was no pot of gold. So I had to make some adjustments. Spent a lot of time in prison because of my consequences of my actions. There's a lot of bad stuff, man. A lot of bad stuff I went through, and you know, thanks to God, I was able to make it out of that, and you know, I'm blessed to be able to pursue a different kind of life now.
I should also tell you that Gino went to high school at Eagle Crest High School in Aurora.
Do you know who she went to school, or do you know who you went to school with?
Colorado, which also happens to be the same high school as Nicholkessinger. They are also the same age and same graduation year listed, which was 2006.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. A lot of people, like you said, don't make it out and aren't able to, you know, change their life around. So I'm super blessed, and try to take advantage of, you know, that opportunity that's been given to me and the grace that's been showed to me, and try to make the most of it for sure. You know, like I said, I had a rough past with, you know, addiction, you know, getting in trouble, a lot of stuff like that, and you know, I'm not ashamed of it. I don't try to hide it. In fact, I believe, you know, it was meant to happen, and I use that opportunity to help other people.
Now, some people may beg to differ with me here, but like Gino, Nikki also had a troubled past. We went over it in one of the first videos that I did on this case before the timeline. And we even talked about an alleged stabbing incident that took place during Nikki's high school years. Her history doesn't say anything about drugs, just alcohol, and it doesn't appear she ever had any consequences for her actions, unlike Gino, whose alcohol consumption eventually ended up with him in jail, and he then moved on to harder drugs and ended up in prison a few times. When Gino got out of prison in 2016, despite still using while behind bars, he had an idea that would eventually end up making him a millionaire. His idea was to purchase homes to use as sober living houses.
We operate Hazelbrook Sober Living Homes and Recovery, which is a recovery organization. We help lots and lots of people that struggle with the same thing, you know, that are in recovery, they're getting out of prison, getting out of jail, treatment, whatever. Help them, try to provide better opportunities for them. Recently, we've opened up a nonprofit community center. It's called Paradigm One. Right now, we have one location. It's in Aurora, and we just try to provide cool stuff for people that are trying to be sober. You know, one of the things we have there is that we got some boxing going on there. We also have an art program, a music program, like a DJ program. Just a cool, fun space where people can come and do fun things in a good environment. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there, but at the end of the day, you know, the reason why we did it and why
who else did yoga? I'm surprised I don't see what's her face in these photos.
Why we got high and, you know, got into that lifestyle is because it was fun. It gave us a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and so I think there's lots of ways to do that in a positive way. And it's always been a dream of mine to be able to do.
I always look in some of these pictures just to see if anybody and Kay would be in there. I don't think I see her in there.
Utilize, you know, my passion for fighting and for fitness. Like that's honestly such a huge part of my success in life. Like coming to the gym here, like it's more than just a sport to me. It's literally like this is what helps keep me out of trouble, keep me sober. So I know it can work for other people as well. So we just kind of went out on a limb and just created this thing, and we just opened it up in January, and we're working hard to grow it and the grants and all that stuff. But I think it'll definitely take off. We're hoping to open up other locations too around the state, and yeah, I think it'll be a great addition to the recovery community for sure.
Did you ever see yourself being the executive director of such an important nonprofit?
Honestly, no, man. Like, I didn't even think that I would be doing anything in a nonprofit way. Like, that whole realm is completely new to me. And yeah, just being an executive director of anything, let alone two organizations, it's crazy. It is almost surreal to me. But you know, it's a blessing, man. It's amazing to be able to give back like that, and I love it. I'm super grateful. I just try to be the best steward of that as possible.
When you listen to Gino tell the story, you can't help but to think, this is a guy who's turning his struggles with drugs and alcohol into a legacy by helping others who are exactly where he was back in 2016, getting out of prison with no...
I'm trying to look in this one too. This person right here is a little questionable, but just looking.
Where to turn, not knowing how or if he would be able to remain sober. His idea was going to be a saving grace for many who had nowhere to go and no one to help them get out of their dangerous pattern of drug use and self-destructive ways of thinking. If you or someone you love has ever been in the throes of addiction, you'll understand. If not, count yourself fortunate. Addiction is not always a conscious choice. Sometimes it is, yes, but not always. Here's another interview with Gino, specifically talking about his story and Hazelbrook Sober Living and its mission. This one is from the Mile High podcast.
All right, we're live. I'm Bryce Hancock. This is Mile High Recovery Chat, and I'm here with Gino Shvedov.
Hey, what's up? What's up, Bryce?
Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Right. So I don't know your story. I met you. Allison Harden said, hey, there's this guy, Gene. You were Gene back then.
Yeah, I still am. Everyone just calls me Gino. I don't know.
Okay, you're still in my phone is Gene Hazelbrook.
Yeah.
And she said he's starting a sober living, and he could maybe use a little, I don't know, direction or advice. Remember? And I came out and I saw your house and I met you.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
I want to know about you. You're Russian.
Yep.
Okay, and so you moved here when?
So I was like 3.5. So it was 1991, I believe, back when Russia was like right at the very end of like all the communist stuff going on, and my family was just really trying to get out of that. Like it sucked. Somehow we just ended up in Colorado.
So you moved here with your parents.
Yep.
One thing I do know about you is that at some point you got into drugs.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What was that?
I don't know. Honestly, like, I don't know if, being like an immigrant, maybe that had something to do with it. In retrospect, man, I realized I had a lot of, issues, like social issues, man. It's probably like just finding who I was, with identity, fitting in. Probably right in the beginning of middle school, man, I kind of just really started acting out, man, and just got involved with, the wrong people and, maybe just kind of trying to find who I was, and decided that identity lied in, being this troublemaker, person, and just kind of got in trouble. I found that got me the attention or like the popularity or respect maybe that I was looking for at that time, and so I just took this totally wrong path. And I mean, it was kind of a red flag. The first time I ever drank was actually in 6th grade, and I got super like belligerent drunk, like super badly drunk. My dad had a bar in the basement, and seeing how adults drank and stuff, they were just take shots. I had some little issue happen at school, and like I came home and decided I would just do like the adults did.
That's my son's age, and the worst thing he's had is Mountain Dew.
Drank like a whole bottle of cognac to the face, and needless to say, that didn't really work out well for somebody that was like 12 years old, and ended up passed out on the side of the street, like in the gutter. And thank God somebody called the ambulance on me, and I almost died my first time ever drinking. And so that should have kind of been a red flag right there.
So at one point you ended up in, the correction system, right? Criminal correction system.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was always like, just all through, like, since that, time period, like, it was just nonstop, just like getting in trouble, little stupid things. Like, my parents split up. I was rebelling. I was trying to find who I was, trying to find my own kind of like way.
Identity.
Yeah. Like my manhood, I guess, whatever you want to call it. And just constantly getting in trouble. And it was like just always little things. It wasn't like anything crazy, like just a bunch of little stuff all the time, and it kept adding up. And my mom, bless her heart, she's an amazing woman who loves me so much, but she would always have my back. Like, that's just kind of, I mean, that's another kind of Russian thing. Like, Russian parents, like, they always have their kids back, like, no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter if the cops are involved. Like, they'll lie to the cops, they'll get you out of jail. Like, it's just kind of like a culture. I'm sure, I mean, it's not just Russian, but like, it's definitely like how it is, with Russian family. So she would always get me out of trouble, and so I just continue to get in more and more trouble. And long story short, without going into all the boring details of like all the crazy.
What if I just thought this just now? Again, all alleged, not fact. What if because Nicole needed some help and she knew Gino, with him being financially up there, I'm not saying it, but you know where I'm going for with this?
Stuff I did. I mean, it was just so much shit, man. Like I put my mom through so much hell as a kid. I was always a smart and talented guy. Like, not to like do my own horn, but like in school I did really well. Like I excelled when I applied myself. In sports I excelled, but I was just, an alcoholic and a drug addict, like a lot of us are. We're very smart people a lot of the time, very talented, but sometimes too smart for our own good. So she was always pushing me to stay in school, pushing me to go to college. I was like, got through most of college, but it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and kept getting like more probation, violating probation, this and that, until finally, like, it just got so bad. Like the judges kept like giving me chances, and finally got me, like, I got on intensive supervision probation, and
now, he looks a lot happier in this interview, much more personable. He says he moved to the US from Russia in 1991 when he was 3.5 years old. Around middle school age, 6th grade, is when he began experimenting with alcohol before eventually using drugs and getting into all sorts of trouble. He talks about his mother being his biggest support person here, and that it is a Russian thing for the mothers to even lie to the cops to protect their kids. He says she would always get him out of trouble, which enabled him to get into even more trouble as an adult. And I said the same thing about Nicole. I mean, if you never have to face any consequences, real consequences for your actions as a kid, what kind of adult are you going to grow up to be, right? Gino speaks a lot about loopholes that he found that enabled him to continue to drink and do drugs even while on probation and not get caught.
It was always drinking was always my big thing, and then they put me on those like scram units where like they have an ankle monitor and test you for alcohol, and I would do the craziest things, like try to put like a piece of bologna in the scram unit so you like for real so you can drink and stuff. And like
I heard about that.
Like all these just crazy like things I would do, man. It's so insane to think about, just so I could get higher drunk. And then I don't know, one time I was on the scram unit. I remember I met somebody and they got me on some harder drugs. Like I got into like the whole upper scene, got into messing around. Like I was messing around with coke already here and there, but then I got some meth introduced into my life, man. And that's when things just went real bad, real fast.
Yeah.
That drug is no joke for sure. Real weird, real fast, man. And and then I just finally just I got like the judges were done with me. They're like, look, man, like I know you're trying to go to school, like you're a good guy, you say you're a good guy, but you're just like, you won't stop.
He specifically talks about a scram unit. Now, this is a monitor that you wear around your ankle, and it detects whether or not you drink alcohol. He said while wearing that bracelet is when he ended up experimenting with harder drugs. The scram monitor
He put baloney. Oh my god.
Only recognizes alcohol, so you can't drink alcohol.
Wouldn't you just not drink alcohol?
You also cannot remove it or tamper with it. Similar to a house arrest home monitoring ankle monitor, if you tamper with it or cut it, they know, and off to jail you go, right? It's the same kind of deal. And I'll tell you one thing I know for a fact, though. If an addict wants to get high, they will find a way. The consequences are not important. They'll deal with that bullshit later. The high is the most important thing, and that goes for alcohol as well. It's not just mental, it's physical as well, and it is extremely difficult to get out of that cycle.
So I got a little prison sentence, a little 2-year prison sentence, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm I'm a thug now, I'm a real thug. Like this is like a rite of passage almost, like for real. Like you would have thought that would kind of be like the end of it, but that was just really the beginning. Like I went to prison the first time, and like I thought I was doing some things. I thought I was like tough, and I was just like drug dealer thug person. I went to prison, I was like, wow, these dudes are like doing it on a whole other level. So I was like inspired by that to do more stuff. So
you were inspired to become like more of a criminal?
Yeah. So like I got got even worse. Like I went back to prison like 3 more times after that. Like I kept getting out on parole, and like once you're on parole, they're like immediately like anything you do wrong, you're immediately going back.
For anybody listening, the only once you're in trouble and you're on UAs, the only way to beat it is to not do it. You can't beat it. Like you literally can't beat it forever. You might beat it a couple times, and that makes it worse. That makes you cocky, right?
I don't know. For me, it was just I don't know. It's all a game. Like I just wasn't taking it seriously. Like I just thought that this is cool. Like I'm over here, selling drugs, being like this, I had like these delusions. I was being like some drug kingpin person. Like it was just crazy. But yeah, man. Long story short, like I just kept messing around. getting involved in like, you know how it is, man. When you start messing, I was like broken, literally, like just mentally broken, and it just clicked to me. I was like, holy shit! And I was like, it was so funny. 'Cause I'm like running around the pod in jail, like. After this, like after they let me out the hole, it was like 30 days later. We're running around telling everybody about this, and they were just looking at me like, "What the fuck?" Like,
You're talking about that, like the surrender, the experience, the spiritual experience, like that internal shift, where you wake up, right, and it's like what you thought your life was, you were all wrong.
Yeah, it was like, to me, it was like the most amazing revolutionary like thing. Those people are like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? You've been in that hole way too long. Like, they're like, you lost your mind.
You got out, and I know you work for Hazelbrook. You're not an owner though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much like the owner there. I'm pretty much run the show over there.
All right, so you're an entrepreneur. You're a realtor. I'm a realtor too.
So Gino gets introduced to coke and eventually meth, and that's when he says shit really hit the fan. He ended up getting a 2-year prison sentence, which in his mind, this is how delusional addicts can be.
I wouldn't make it in jail. I'll tell you that right now. I did military, which was in a room of 64 guys. And that was 3 months of training, another 13 weeks of AIT. It was a long time, but then when you get to your like units, it's a little bit better, but then you get into the GP mediums and the tents and stuff. And it just, and I did that for 7 years, but I couldn't be in a confined space for 23 hours a day. You only get to go outside once. You literally, I couldn't do it. Nope.
Okay, in his mind, made him feel even more relevant as a man. He enjoyed the street cred, is what I gathered from what he said. Rather than learning a lesson from the punishment, he says he learned how to be a better dealer and basically more of a criminal. Now, they laugh about this in this interview, but the sad truth is this happens far too often to teens and young adults. They are thrown into jails and prisons for misdemeanor charges, and they come out committing felonies. Again, not always, but a lot more often than you would think. You end up in an endless cycle, using your drug of choice, committing crimes while on that drug of choice in order to get money for the drug of choice, and then ending up back in jail or prison, only to continue the habit while behind bars. The person ends up getting smarter and learns how to deceive to get what they want. Eventually, their life outside isn't much better than their life behind bars. And that's not just my opinion. That is a fact. So Gino does a couple more prison stints, and when he gets out the last time, he decides, you know what? I'm going to do something to help this situation. Because putting an addict back out on the streets with zero support system is not going to keep them sober, which in turn isn't going to keep them from coming back to jail at some point or dying, right? It is my opinion that Gino's vision and eventual execution of this vision saves lives, not just from death, but from living in the cycle of crime and addiction, which is really no way to live at all. But here's where we're going to take a little left turn, because I came across an article that was written by a man named Ben Marcus. This article is titled "Cash for Caring: Unlicensed and Inexperienced Providers Take on Mental Health and Drug Addiction in Denver." Now, before we get into that article, I do want to say that it is my opinion that if you've set out to help other people using your own experience, strength, and hope that got you sober, I don't really see anything wrong with that. There are anonymous meetings of all sorts for all different types of addictions that are run by other addicts who are unlicensed. And these programs have been helping people stay sober for hundreds of years. Bill W., the founder of AA, started his organization in 1935 after being committed multiple times and losing everything to his alcohol addiction. I could go into more, but I don't want to stray too far away from the topic of this video. Let me now read you some of this article because it contains some heavy allegations about Hazelbrook sober living and Gino Shvedoff.
I probably drink 3 times a year: New Year's, Christmas, 4th of July. And maybe sometimes on my birthday.
So it says, Yevgeny Gino Shvedoff said he first got the idea to own a chain of sober living houses in 2016. At the time, he just as easily could have been living in one. Shvedoff, 36, he's 37 now, a mixed martial arts fighter known as the Russian
I'm 37.
Concussion, may not have been ready to get sober. He was caught dealing drugs during one of his prison stints. When the idea came to him, he was facing the possibility of parole revocation. He hadn't yet been arrested for unlawful sexual contact. That would come a little later. I don't think we're going to get into that at all. I just want to do what we're...
He was acquitted by all charges he was acquitted of all charges by a jury. So they pretty much threw it all out.
Here for. But fewer than 5 years after what he says was an initial brainstorm, Shvedoff's company received the first of what would become more than $2.7 million in payments from Denver taxpayers. Shvedoff now oversees both Paradigm 1 and Hazelbrook Sober Living, one of the largest sober living operations in Colorado. According to a 2022 Department of Corrections contract, his company listed 26 sober living homes, 2 in Denver, 13 in Aurora, and houses from Colorado Springs to Pueblo. Since then, the company has almost doubled in size to about 40 homes. Unlike Hazelbrook Sober Living, Paradigm One is a nonprofit operation and the recipient of the Caring for Denver grants to fund services in homes operating in what Shvedov calls the, quote, transitional safety zone, unquote. In that program, which Shvedov says he invented, people in sober living are able to test positive for drugs and remain housed. Residents receive support services, including boxing classes at Shvedov's Aurora gym. Quote, our programs promote constructive recovery outlets such as boxing, martial arts, fitness, yoga, art, music, recovery coaching, life skills, training, spiritual mentoring, and sober gatherings and events, unquote, reads a 2022 application for grant funds from Caring for Denver. Paradigm One is just one of more than 200 grantees who have received Denver taxpayer funds through Caring for Denver, a sales tax approved by Denver voters in 2018. Since 2020, Caring for Denver has granted more than $170 million, mostly to nonprofits. A year-long review by CPR News found that while grants went to some of the city's most established mental health and drug treatment providers, tax money was also given to companies with no history or license to provide behavioral health care, and to some companies run by individuals with lengthy criminal histories, people like Gino Shvedov. About 6 months after Paradigm One got approval for the first of 3 Caring for Denver grants, its sister company, Hazelbrook Sober Living, purchased a nearly $1 million Denver home in a tidy neighborhood off Hampton, but it is not used for sober living. Shvedov says he and his wife live there. It's unclear how exactly Shvedov is paid. He said that his paychecks come from Hazelbrook Sober Living, not Paradigm One, but in 3 years, as executive director of Paradigm One, he reported to the IRS that he worked 40 to 50 hours a week at the nonprofit with $0 in compensation last year. He lists a total of $17,056 in salary from 2021 to 2022. When shown the public tax form, Shvedov couldn't explain why the line for his compensation last year was blank. His wife, Paradigm One's director of operations, Jess Shvedov, signed the 990 tax forms, but couldn't explain why she had no salary listed. Caring for Denver's executive director, Loris Meinhold, told CPR News that Shvedov's accountant made a mistake and would file a corrected form. Shvedov has a long criminal history, including assaults, burglaries, trespassing. In 2007, at 19 years old, he was arrested for first-degree assault for allegedly throwing a brick at a person's face in a suburban neighborhood in Centennial. The victim was, quote, found outside lying on the sidewalk with a brick near his head with multiple fractures to his face, unquote. A female witness reported to police that Shvedov's mother, Alexandra Shvedov, quote, did try to offer her money not to call the cops, unquote, according to the arrest affidavit. This case was dismissed. About 6 months later, Shvedov broke the jaw of someone whom he claimed stole his CD. The victim said he was blindsided by a powerful punch from Shvedov and that his injury would require surgery. A doctor at University Hospital in Aurora signed a serious bodily injury form for police to put in the case file. And this is a screenshot from that 2007 affidavit for Gino Shvedov's arrest for assault. He also goes by Gene, which I said at the beginning, and this reads, I was expecting to get a ride from my friend Gene. He said he would pick me up at Sonic, across from the bus stop I arrived at. I got to Sonic thinking I was going to go home, but as Gene's car approached me, he ran out of the passenger side and rushed me with a powerful left fist right to my jaw, and my whole mouth felt like jello. I was full of blood at the mouth and had a horrific pain, and called the police. I later arrived at the hospital, and I had to get several x-rays and CAT scans to confirm that Gene had broken my jaw. Arrests and convictions followed for assault, a domestic violence protection order violation, trespassing, and drug distribution. Shvedov racked up 14 violations in prison for violence, gambling, and drug dealing, according to a 2016 pre-sentence report. In 2017, he was on parole when he was arrested for a misdemeanor for sexual contact, no consent, against a woman in Denver who also works in the sober living industry. Now, he maintains that charge was the result of a false accusation. He was acquitted by a jury about 2 months before Caring for Denver began collecting signatures for their ballot measure in 2018. Even Denver District Attorney Beth McCann, who sits on Caring for Denver's board and whose office prosecuted that case, voted for Paradigm One to receive the grants. Quote, as far as I'm aware, Hazelbrook Sober Living has been a very worthy grantee, and there have been no issues with the way it operates or with the people in charge, unquote. McCann said this in a statement from her office, quote, with respect to the case brought against Fedov in 2017, he was found not guilty of that charge, unquote. While Shvedov was working through his parole, records show his mother, Alexandra Shvedov, was beginning to build a sober living business, signing the first in
Somebody give this woman like a journalist job, because how is she getting all this?
a series of contracts with the state in 2018 to house people on probation. In 2020, she signed a contract with the Colorado Department of Corrections to house parolees coming out of prison. Gino Shvedov began signing the DOC contract starting in 2021. Gino Shvedov dismisses the unlawful sexual contact case as an attempt to smear his name, but he readily admits the rest of his long criminal history and blames substance abuse. A tattoo running the length of his forearm says, quote, let the past create the future, unquote. In an interview, Gino and Jess Shvedov both claimed to not know much about who owned the dozens of homes in their program. CPR identified ownership records for more than 20 of the houses. His mother owns several. One, where Caring for Denver funds programming, is owned by a corporation registered in Belize, where ownership records are not public. Shvedov at first said he didn't know who owned the Belize corporation, saying, quote, I'm not sure, I think it's an investment company, unquote. But when CPR News showed him records linking the corporation to his father's address and asked him if his father owned it, Shvedov said, quote, I think so, unquote. IRS tax forms also show that last year the nonprofit paid his mother's company called Hazelbrook LLC $276,850 for, quote, facility rental, unquote. You have kind of a tangled web of transactions between influential people in the organization and family members and properties owned by family members, said.
I'm going to leave it there. I have a lot of thinking to do. I don't know about you, but this opened Pandora's box. Okay? I don't know if this is a coincidence, but this is scary close. What would she have to do with calling him the same time around the whole Watts case problems? Oh man, I'm gonna talk more. I'm just in a more of a like, gosh, dang, of all this information, and I feel like I'm not processing it. Like I'm trying to put it in each slot, and I'm just like, the more information she gives, the more my just keeps dropping. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this video so far. Give this woman some love, man, okay? Go over to her channel, give her some love, subscribe, comment, like, and share. This woman knows how to dig. This woman knows how to expose. And I hope this does something for this case. I hope it does. Again, thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button. Share with your friends. Of course, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. Keep it real, keep it safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in the next video.